If the theater people have heard of that.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for Chapter 2 of Vaesen, The Verge of the Azure Sea. I would, first of all, like to give a big thank you to this amazing group of people agreeing to be a part of this today. I am so excited in the fact that even with Chapter 2, we have a table full of players who are completely new to the system, so I'm very honored to have you trusting me through this process. Before we get into the story, I guess I'd like to go through some introductions. My name's Bree. I'll be the game master for this evening. And next up, let's go over to Fluffy.
Hi, my name is Fluffy. You can find me on Twitter at Fluffy Snowfall. And for this adventure, I'll be playing Aoife MacKenna, a eccentric noblewoman from a long line of whiskey distillers.
Perfect. Next up, let's jump on over to Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Durnesque. You can find me all over the internet as Durnesque or Sarah Durnesque. Pretty much anywhere on the internet except fanfiction.net. That's not me. But I have the extreme pleasure of joining this game, and I'll be playing Biddy Byrne. And I'm really excited.
Fantastic. And Adam.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Joseph Ferry. Adam turns heel mostly everywhere on social media, and tonight I'll be playing the great, yes, I am Dolan Halvorson, as you all know, the entertainer.
As we all know, and if you didn't, now you do.
Now you do.
Perfect. So, leading up to the three investigators that you see on the screen before us, they are known as individuals that are Thursday's children, people who have the sight. Now, the Mythic North, Mythic Britain, and Mythic Ireland, the latter of which we are going to be exploring for this particular mystery, is a little bit different from the world that we know today. while it's set in the late 1800s, it's also a land where the creatures of mythology, of folklore, of stories you tell around a campfire are all very real. And these Vaesen have coexisted with humans for as long as humans can recall. Oftentimes, this was an amicable pairing, coexisting alongside one another until the industrialization started. With that, the tensions between the two have rapidly increased. And while some still don't bear any ill will towards humans, others have become growingly more agitated. Now, the sight is not something everyone has. A person has to experience a unique trauma to be able to see Vaesen when they are not choosing to be seen. And each of these investigators have had one of those traumas. Now, the three of you, I would like for you to think back on the moment where your character first experienced a traumatic instance that changed the course of their life forever. One that gave them the ability to see creatures that previously were only seen when they wanted to be. I would like to start today with Dolan. Now, Dolan, it's been a few years. 5, if we're being specific. It's a late night. It's dark out, it's cold. You feel a sense of inspiration, a certainty within you that you feel you are going to be finding what you've been looking for. As you're walking through the bog and you're stepping into puddles, noticing that you're feeling cold, wet, damp, overtake your shoes, and you're glancing around. Can you describe what's going through Dolan's mind right now?
Well, Dolan's been doing all the research, asking help from a local occultist, and finally determined that this was the spot where all the evidence points toward where he could possibly find whatever creature he saw take his brother long time ago, all those years ago. Not used to his feet being so muddy, except that night. So, stumping around on them, he's getting that weird sensation. He goes to his hip flask and takes a quick swig of liquid courage and starts moving forward towards the bogs.
Fantastic. Flask out, you feel liquid pour down your throat, almost a warmth that starts settling in your chest, and you start venturing forward. Would you make a vigilance check for me? This will be anything that you have is in vigilance as well as logic.
When it's a 0, what is that?
When it's a 0, you'll just roll within logic at that point.
So just one dice.
Okay.
Right?
I think it should be at least 2
at
that point, yes.
Can it be the same, or is it 2 different?
It can be the same one. We're just looking for at least 1 6.
Gotcha. That is a no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that a no?
That was a no.
Okay. So as you're starting to step forward and you're noticing like there's this mist around you, this fog that almost seems uncharacteristic for the time of year, and you're breathing in heavily, your chest rising and falling, and then you hear it. You hear like the snapping of a twig, and as you glance over to the left, you see a figure. It's dark. It's shrouded. What do you do?
Duncan? I move forward.
As you're moving forward, closer to this figure, it doesn't move. You're getting closer to it in the sense of it feels as though you're being watched, but you're not seeing a face. As you get closer, the figure seems to turn, and you see a face exactly like yours looking back at you. But the eyes, there's something different about the eyes. They look vacant.
Duncan? Was that you? What happened to you?
And those eyes, the vacant appearance, the lack of recognition towards you, almost turn hostile.
Who are you?
And as those words are uttered from your mouth, you say, "Who are you?" You feel as though there's a lightheaded sensation that takes over. Your vision goes blurry. The fog grows thicker, or your perception is growing dimmer, and you collapse.
I try my best to let out one more Duncan as I fall.
And as your body hits the ground, breath escaping your chest, the next thing you know, you feel a hand on your shoulder. You feel warmth, and you feel the sun hitting your face. Sir, are you okay?
What? What time is it?
As you open your eyes and you look up and you notice it's daylight out. It's very harsh on your eyes. You feel dampness all over from the water that you've been laying in. It's not a pleasant sensation, but you see a kind face looking down at you, a man you would recognize as the groundskeeper.
Oh.
Son, are you okay?
Did you see anyone else here?
Anyone? No, you're the only one I've seen. Was someone else out here with you?
I looked back at where I saw I thought I saw something. It was just too foggy to really know exactly where I was looking.
As you glance back over there, you see no sign of a figure, no presence.
I apologize, me lad. These peats make for a very fine dram.
I suppose so. Do you need help getting home?
Oh no, I could find my way. Thank you. And if you ever need any more, if you ever need an entertainer to come by, and I do parties and magic and such. Here's my card. You can just contact me at that address right there.
Okay.
So sorry for all the trouble. And does the groundskeeper have a dog with him, or
there's no dog with him currently. No.
Oh, okay. I just thank you for waking me up. So sorry for causing any trouble. And just do my best to kind of just dust myself off the best I can and kind of get away and try to make my way back to my place.
Of course. And now, Dolan, as you're walking away and you have that sinking feeling of despair, it was that sense of complete confidence you had just what felt like minutes ago completely turn. But next, let's move over to Biddy. So,
Hi.
Biddy. Hello, Biddy.
Good
The Biddy that we have, that everyone will be meeting, is a woman who's seen many years in this earth. But the Biddy that we're starting with has only just started as well. Now, there's not as much that we can get into with this in particular. As we're younger, you would imagine our memory doesn't serve us as strong later on. But Biddy, what you see as your eyes are looking up and you're taking in everything around you, you see it looks like a ceiling. You think you're reaching up and you see small hands. And as you're looking at them and kind of grasping, you recognize them as your own. And you see a face looking down at you. The face is odd. It's not quite like yours. The nose is a bit larger, the eyes a bit smaller, but there's warmth in the arms as you're being held. You feel a slight hiccup, and you're looking up at this figure who smiles and then seems to be setting you down. It's warm. You feel something get covered over you. And then you hear a cry. You hear what sounds like a baby. What warmth was next to you is picked up, and you see the figure now holding something else. And as it starts backing away, even though Biddy is so young, would Biddy please make a vigilance check for me?
Oh, golly. Vigilance is going to be... Okay, I have 1, so 3 total. I have 1 6.
1 6, okay. So as you're struggling in your infancy to keep focus on this figure that you'd known, you'd seen this face many times, the face you know, and the figure is now picking up something else, and a blanket falls away, and as it shifts over to the side, you see a soft, almost like cherub-cheeked face, rosy cheeks, big brown eyes, a slight amount of drool coming out the side of the lip, and it's looking around as though it doesn't recognize what's holding it. But you do. And I wonder if you're ever going to see that face again. Now, Biddy, we're going to be going over to Aoife now. Aoife, this is not necessarily a memory that you specifically have. Every trauma is unique in the fact that it can be experienced firsthand or it can be inherited. Generational trauma is a real thing. And for a particular family, well known within this particular area, wealth and all the goods that come with that seem to be effortless. But at what cost? We're looking back and we're seeing an older gentleman. He is walking through a wooded area just on the outskirts of what we now know to be Clifton, Ireland. He's pointing out into this forested area, speaking with some other men, and giving instructions to essentially begin expanding. He knows that this land here is good, and he believes that he can get a very fine distillery in place, despite all the naysayers telling him that he is only asking to have the wrath of the Fae following him. It continues. The trees get felled. Children are born to the family. The business thrives. Then things start happening. Good years of business turn to not as successful. Almost every single little thing that can go wrong in the house does go wrong. Anything breaks far before it should. And the children are the ones dealing with it in where we're starting now. Aoife, could you also make a vigilance check for me?
I certainly can. That would be 2 successes.
2 successes. Aoife. Even as a young girl going to school, going to have play dates with the other children of the old money elite, if you will, within Clifton, you were very perceptive to how parents looked at you, how whispers may have been had, not even necessarily about you or about your brother, but about the name that you both share. You would remember hearing comments about how Aoife doesn't quite look like I'd expect. You know, Reardon looks so much like his father, but I don't see any of her mother in Aoife. Comments about they don't seem to have the best of luck. You know, maybe if they would have just listened and they hadn't gone around the burial mounds, we wouldn't be dealing with this problem. You know they're looking at you differently, and they know that they are looking at their family differently. But that brings us to present day, at least within this mystery. I do want to say that the land of Mythic Ireland that we are exploring is just that. It's mythic. While I am going to be exploring some locations that are in fact very real within Ireland, we're taking some creative liberties within this. So history buffs, please don't come for me. I know I'm going to have some stuff wrong, and I can't do an Irish accent like my amazing players can. But our first chapter began in Roundstone, Ireland, not too far off from where our investigators are currently located, within Clifton, Ireland. Now, Fluffy, we're going to start with Aoife again. Would you describe what a typical day looks like for Aoife?
Certainly. So, typically in the morning, she would get up, have a round of breakfast, then would work on looking through the stories that she's picked for that week's book club.
Mm-hmm.
After reading through several of the fairy stories that have been selected, she would take her hound Rory for a walk.
Okay.
Probably stop by Biddy's hut out in the woods, see if she's out. If she isn't, she'll continue onward. If she sees her, Aoife might linger a little bit. Invite her to the book club if that's if she wants to go this time. Polite decline, probably incoming. Then after, she would head back to the estate with Rory. Would potentially go walking around Clifton, trying to just see what the people are up to, see what she can kind of find. People watching's always been a bit of a hobby for her.
Mm-hmm.
And so she likes to spend the afternoons doing that. The ones that'll give her the time of day, she'll talk with. Maybe see what parties are going on in the city with the others. Well, she's the eccentric one in the MacKenna family. And some of the other moneyed houses might not necessarily want her around. There's still the social game that has to be played, so probably go and attend those when they come up. And then round out the end of the day with a bit of supper, probably some more reading for the book club, and then off to bed.
Fantastic. So, Aoife, would you make an observation check for me? This will be following specifically the people watching aspect of your day.
Certainly can. Observation, so it's empathy. Right.
Yes.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Two successes again.
2 successes. Those dice are working very well. So
this one I had 7 to work with.
Oh, well, that's a great dice pool, so setting yourself up for success. So I would say starting with your day, getting up the typical as you described, that all occurs without any type of hiccup. As you're going about to specifically looking around, watching some of the people passing by, going through, and you notice a fair number of tourists, which isn't entirely unusual specifically for Clifton. You are picking up on a couple people that you recognize that are meandering through. And as you're approaching, walking forward with Rory, one of them catches your eye. You would recognize this particular individual as John Moore. Also one of the members of this old money elite, if you will. He has a friendly smile across his face. He's always been kind to you and Reardon. And he waves and walks over and says, "Good morning, Aoife. How are you doing today?"
Good morning, John. I'm doing all right. It's been another quiet morning, which is all we can really ask for these days.
Oh, I guess that's true. All right. Am I going to be seeing you tonight? And he kind of looks at you expectantly. You would remember, a recollection of a birthday celebration that is going on tonight, specifically for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Oh, fantastic! I'm very excited. I mean, it's a party, and he's trying to play it cool. You can tell, but he's incredibly excited about having an excuse to just let loose. You would know, especially with that earlier observation check, some of the recent gossip that's been going around in these particular circles. A lot of stress with his family. Late mother, as of just a few months ago, not the best business situations, and, any excuse to look in the happier areas of life. Well, I'm really excited to see you tonight. If you have any questions at all, please let Michael, his older brother, please let him know he's sure he has everything organized. So I'm just going to, I'm going to trust him with this one. That didn't work out so well last time, but I think he's got it.
He's got a good head on his shoulders.
Yeah,
I'm sure this time will work out.
I really hope so. And he kind of looks down. Well, can I pet? And he's indicating towards Rory.
Of course.
Oh,
all right, Rory. Now, no, don't get excited. You've met John before. There's this big, really, really tall Irish wolfhound. Just big, curly furred, wagging. This is probably the size of a small pony. Really big dog. Just super excited.
There's a fair amount of pets, little behind the ear scritches that are occurring, and he'll give it a few minutes, and then Sam say, "Well, I'm awesome. I guess I'll agree. I'll see you tonight, then."
Right. Is Reardon's coming, right?
Reardon? Oh, I think so. I assume.
All right. I just I didn't hear from him. I didn't know if he had been invited as well. I mean, kind of assumed that he would be, but...
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, we'd want both of you there.
Right.
Yeah. If he's not too busy. I understand, stuff's getting kind of hectic lately.
It has been. Things at the distillery have been touch and go for a little while, from what I've heard. They don't really want me in there on too much of the business information. So I... spend the days the best I can. Reardon's got a better head for that anyway.
Oh, I get that. It's the same with Michael with the brewery, so I've never really had much of a head for the business side of things. But who cares? It'll be good. We shouldn't even be thinking about business right now. This is a party, right?
Right.
Or it's going to be. Okay. Fantastic. Great. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go check with Emma as well and just make sure everyone's good. I'll see you tonight. And you see him kind of start get a little frazzled, start rushing off. A familiar face, a woman that's walking by, is starts smiling, incredibly brightened up in the cheeks, looking at him, twirling her hair. And you sense there's maybe a little bit of a conversation occurring between the two of them at the moment. But Aoife, after that, I do also want to open it up. If Aoife had gone over to kind of look if Biddy were home, let's do a little bit of a sidestep. Biddy, would you describe what a typical day looks like?
Well, kind of depends, but usually, if I haven't got other business, I'd be out in the early mornings gathering both herbs from my own garden, but as well as the wilds, doing a bit of harvesting. I do like to wander the woods and the surrounding meadows, and sometimes down to the seaside, just when it's quieter in the morning. I don't much like to be bothered. So I think perhaps this morning I probably wouldn't have been home. But Aoife also knows me well. Even if she had been home, I wouldn't have accepted. I find it quite adorable that she keeps inviting me to this little book club thing of hers, but I haven't had much use for reading. Not the kind of books that she's into anyway.
Understood. Perfect. So, we'll take that as a transition, Biddy. As you are heading out, getting the herbs from your garden initially harvested, and then adventuring out for those that you normally would have to, oh my goodness, look to nature for outside of your own garden. Forage, thank you. That's what I was looking for. We love foraging, pro-foraging. of course, respectful foraging. As you're going
Don't
out and
die.
doing that, would you go ahead and make a investigation check? That'll be investigation and logic.
And a good 3. Ooh, and 2 6s this time. 2 successes.
2 6 is fantastic. There is a unusual amount that you are actually able to forage today. As you're walking around, just enjoying the brisk air, the sun's kind of beaming down on you. It feels nice and warm against your forehead. You're noticing just an exceptional amount. You're going through, picking as much as you can, herbs. You're noticing some small animals that are taking notice of you and kind of meandering away, but not outright rushing or showing like concern for their own safety, but just being kind. In terms of the foraging, is there anything in particular you would think that Biddy's looking for after that?
I think today maybe something, I'm not sure if they have it in Ireland, to be fair, but something akin to the chicken of the woods, and then perhaps down to the seaside, see if there's available mussels or something close by that I could grab.
Definitely. Now, Clifton being a oceanside town, you're able to just follow the river and get right to the sea. As you're looking out, you're noticing it's starting to see a light mist across, like further out onto the ocean. You see some ships that are going by that aren't entirely unfamiliar to you. And one last thing, can you do one vigilance check for me?
And the same amount of dice. Ooh, thank goodness. 1 success.
1 success. Now, interestingly enough, as you were looking out across the ocean and something catches your eye, maybe just 100 meters off to your right, you notice that on a rock you see a figure sitting on it. One that appears to have a very feminine face, but it's gray. It looks as though it's a bit gaunt. There's long, stringy hair that looks perpetually wet. As the figure's sitting on the rock, it's kind of just peering out, back and forth, and you see it shift back down into the water. And the water doesn't seem to really respond.
Did she see me at all?
Let's see.
Because otherwise, as soon as I would have seen her, I would have taken a pause and been as quiet and as still as I could, which for an old woman takes some doing.
Totally fair. As you were looking over and you see her kind of glancing around, she doesn't seem to take notice of you, even with the pause.
I will. Seaside kind of rocky, or is there any kind of like tall dune grass, anything I could kind of shift behind?
There's definitely some rock formations if you'd like to try to get yourself some hiding area.
Quiet of a groan as I can muster. I'll try to lower myself down just a little bit. Just wanting to observe, but understanding I have a good idea of what I'm seeing, and I would like to be unseen.
Understood. I would say with its earlier check, an additional one's not necessary. As you're starting to lower yourself down a bit further, a slight groan, you hear like a pop from your elbow and like a pulled muscle in your side. You're kind of leaning against this rock, and you see the figure just still looking out as it's starting to kind of like descend into the water. Slowly, but surely. It just appears to be enjoying what it's witnessing.
I'll let her pass untroubled.
Okay.
Admiring the beauty, and also now regretting my choice to get behind this rock.
And passing undisturbed she does. She shifts back down into the water, and as strange as it is, it doesn't really appear like there's a ripple around her. It doesn't seem like there's any indication that if you were to enter into the water, even in like your best shape in your younger years, there would have been movement surrounding you as a clear indication of the fact that you were there. It doesn't seem to be there for her.
In my younger years, I might have chased her, but
and maybe in your younger years you may have tried to chase one of them before. But she proceeds to go into the water and drifts away undetected. Now, Dolan, would you describe what a typical day looks like for the Dolan Halvorson, the entertainer, as we all know?
Well, after nights of entertaining, I wake up after the same nightmare I've had every single night, falling out of bed, and just quickly get my face on, dust myself off, and get ready for the day. I try to I step outside after I'm somewhat cleaned up. Find the local newspaper. Roy grabs the Daily Times just to see if there's any news coming out of the Clifton distillery. If I see any headlines there. By the way, new game system. Who this? I just realized that I have 4 in my logic.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Okay, so that's good.
But it slightly fits the narrative for the failed roll, so we don't have to do anything with that. But I'll remember that for next time. And I apologize. But
no worries.
I'm looking through for any headlines, and as I'm walking around, kind of somewhat looking for any kind of show I could put on to possibly get some money. If there's anyone hiring any entertainers for the night, aside from going to my usual spot of nightly entertainment, and if I see anything in the paper, I'll immediately report it to Biddy, and see if she has anything to say about that. But it's just kind of almost the daily life of an LA actor. You're looking for auditions, looking for places to entertain. Any place you can make use of your talents.
Absolutely. So as you're kind of flagging down one of the paper boys, getting one of the Times, you hear like the kid rattling off some of the information that they'd read. It's not all relevant to what you're looking for, but the kid's very, very enthusiastic about it. You're kind of flipping through, you're noticing not really any terms of like rumors or word on the distillery specifically. You're noticing that there's been some mention in some neighboring communities of like some rabbits that have been getting it looks very odd, left out in the woods, like kind of covered in some sort of black substance. It's like a small note in like one of the back pages, but it's a bit further to the southeast than where you're currently located, kind of adjacent to the bog and throughout some of the southern areas of like Roundstone. One thing you do notice though, that there is a small little section that's already saying like a dearest happy birthday, and there is some notes in there about an event that's taking place tonight, and they are looking for entertainers. Now there's been a contact that's listed for it specifically. A member of the Moore family, Moore. You would know the Moore family as being like the owners of the Kavanagh Brewing Co. within the area. You've likely met at least both of the sons at some point in time. There would be Michael and John, especially if you've ever attended Aoife's book club.
Would I have? Only once, probably. and mainly because I was probably forced to. And I needed something to clear my mind. I do recognize the Moors.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, the distillery or the brewery is, it's near those, the brewery or the distillery, is not?
Yeah, they're on like adjacent properties. There's still a fair amount stretched between the two of them, but they're essentially neighbors.
Well, They're also they're also a brewery and distillery. Maybe we can get a good dram out of it,
Mhm.
as well as a pretty penny. So I go over and I mark down the address,
Mhm.
and I go over and I also circled the rabbit story just out
Mhm.
of interest because maybe Biddy would know something about it. And first I'll stop by um, if I could find whichever's on the way. If I see John's address or I mean sorry the Kavanaughs.
Oh,
How is it pronounced? Sorry.
so they're the owner of the Cavenach Brewing Company?
Kavanagh Brewing Company.
Yes.
Um, and if I know John and Michael, if I see one of them on the streets, I'll probably try to solicit one of them about tonight. Uh,
Absolutely.
Probably before I hit Biddy's.
Fantastic. So, when it comes to attempting to locate either of the brothers, I'll have this be your choice. This can either be a vigilance check or it could be an observation check if you would prefer.
Okay, observation. That's plus empathy. I mean, it'd be a 7 dice roll, so I think I'll go with observation.
Oh, fair.
Okay. Okay, that is 2 successes.
Two successes. Okay, so with two successes, we're looking at a success for each brother.
Nice.
As you're getting to like closer to the address that is listed on the contact form, you do notice both the brothers are standing and having a conversation with one another, like up on the sidewalk. Currently, they had someone that's walking away from them at this time.
Ah, Michael, John! How you doing, me
Oh,
lads?
Mr. Halvorson, good to see you.
Oh, and good to see you as well. Well, I looked at this morning paper as I usually do, and I just happened to find a little advertisement that you're looking for some entertainment. It is supposedly your birthday today, Mr. John. How young are you today?
Oh,
Probably 18, it must be.
John has like this big smile coming across his face. He's like, "Oh, you flatter me. I'm 24 at this point." And he's
Oh,
kind of looking over at his brother Michael, who is older than him. He's 32. Kind of like you put an ad out for my birthday. He's just kind of like smiling at him, like dumbfounded almost.
it's a proper way to treat a baby brother, is it not?
Yeah, he's a good kid.
There's a small pain and there's a slight twinge in Dolan's side at the mention of a little brother that he himself said, but he's holding up the act pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but who better than the famous Dolan Halvorson? I'll remember my name eventually. It's only early in the morning, you know.
It's part of the act, I'm sure, right?
Oh, you know, my brother and I also used to do this little thing where we'd always get our names wrong. God
Oh,
rest his soul.
your brother, you said. Did he do this with you? Was it like a dual act?
It was a dual act when we were a lot younger. I was probably a little bit younger than the 24 back then. But we used to just play with each other's names. He being the slightly older twin, only about a couple hours before.
Oh.
But he would play the smart straight man, and I'd be the whole kind of buffoon, as you do when you're twins. And
Mm-hmm.
we'd have this entire act where we always mispronounced our own names while playing to the gods. It was quite funny.
Oh. Oh, I
Um,
will do it.
yes, we of course obviously can't do it today because ever since the accident long ago. But that's neither here nor there. Well, let's talk about
Okay.
you, John. Your birthday is coming up. I figured we can. I have some ideas. I could do a little bit of magic. I could do a little song and dance, and we can have all sorts of a good time tonight.
Could you go ahead and make an observation check for me?
Wow. Can I put 2 3s together and make a 6? No.
Oh.
One success.
One success? Okay. So as you were kind of explaining to them the past with your brother and then the quick brushing over of it, you notice that while John's not quite taking note of it and he seems kind of distracted otherwise. Michael, it hit his gaze that you kind of softens a little bit, and there's like a slight smile and a nod towards you. Is almost a understanding of a loss. But he says, well, I have to say it's been a very tense negotiations. We've had exactly one person respond so far. It's you. What's your rate, Dolan?
Oh, well, tell you what. Usually it's about, I don't know what the rate is.
Totally fair.
But it'd probably be a pretty high rate. But tell you what, since you only had one person respond so far, that's a bloody crime, I'd say. I can also help. I'll just do it from half my usual rate, but all I ask is that I'll help you bring people to the party, but I also just ask for just a meal, and I'll just cut my rate in half.
You drive a hard bargain. He reaches his hand out, offering to shake. Can you get to the place at, say, 6 tonight?
6 o'clock. Of course. And I'll do the best to bring even more entertainment. I'm sure you'll get more of me really quickly, but I could probably bring some more entertainment, maybe some seances or any kind of nice little hocus pocus, jiggery pokery, as it will.
Sounds great.
You'll have a great time, I promise you.
I'm sure we will. And he kind of looks down towards John. He's a little bit shorter than him, so maybe we should get going. I'm sorry, I have to go back to at least to the brewery today for a little bit.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Is there, tell you what, I noticed you're getting on that age. Is there any person you're particularly wanting to be there tonight? I could probably do some talking to get them to come join me for some of the festivities now.
John's cheeks start to blush a little bit.
Oh, you have a lass, don't you?
Emma's coming already, but thank you.
Emma, okay. I'll make sure you and Emma have a great time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm very excited. I'll see you tonight.
See you tonight, 6 o'clock.
Okay, perfect. And the two start walking away. One's starting to prattle off about business, more boring conversation than what you just had.
Right, okay. Well, now see if I can get, now time to get other people to join me. I immediately walk over, continue my way to Biddy's.
Fantastic. And now while you're venturing over to Biddy's, because we have a couple different people that are just meandering around town at this time, Aoife and Dolan, could you make I'm going to have this again be a choice, observation, or vigilance?
Muted.
Ooh, I am so sorry.
I'm going to do vigilance.
Okay, fantastic.
I also get an additional +3 because I have Rory.
Yes. The doggo bonus.
Mm-hmm. One.
Okay, fantastic. And Dolan, any successes for you?
That was what kind of check was that? I apologize.
Oh, and not a problem. You can choose between observation or vigilance. I assume you're likely choosing observation between the two.
2.
2, fantastic. I would say as you are starting to just go around one corner, stopping as some people are walking in front of you, you do take note of a familiar, very large dog that's walking by, an Irish Wolfhound. And you see Aoife immediately next to it. So almost collision, a near collision, but you both noticed before you ran into one another.
Yeah. Morning, Rory. Morning, Aoife.
Morning, Mr. Halvorson. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. And yourself?
I'm doing all right. Just getting a bit of the morning walk in. Well, the weather's still good.
Good. Will you be going on your daily regular book club today?
No, not today. That'll be later in the week. Gotta get some time for reading up on the stories.
Aye, aye.
Been harder and harder to get proper fairy stories for the book club.
Ah, those types of stories are getting rarer and rarer nowadays.
That they are. That they are. How have you been doing? It's been quite a while since we've last met.
Aye, aye. Well, I've been doing well. Kind of just making ends meet best I can. Got a little thing tonight at John Moore's.
Oh, you'll be there as well. That's great to hear.
You'll be there.
Right? Yes, I'll be there. We
Fan
were invited.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. Both of you, you're bringing Rory with you.
I wish. No, Rory's got to stay at home.
Oh,
Not really good for the decorum. No, Reardon and I should be there. Well, assuming Reardon can pull himself away from the distillery.
Oh, good. No, Reardon's a good lad. You're a good lass as well. Good.
I appreciate it. Listen, I feel bad about the way things have been turning out for you. Do you need another loan?
No, no, no. I'm doing very good for myself. No, this gig's going to be a good gig. I think it should help cover me for the next couple months or so. But
Well,
I do appreciate the offer.
she'll pull out a small little coin purse and pull out some. Here, just
Eva,
take it. You're doing good work out there, Mr. Halvorson.
I do. I appreciate it, Miss Aoife. I look around to make sure, like, don't make too much of a habit of it. It's just, I want to make sure I get off on my own. I don't want to look like any kind of regular beggar, Like,
You're not a beggar. You're a real professional. It's just people don't know how to see it yet.
I do. Well, I appreciate that. Just for that, I'll make sure to bring out some new tricks for you tonight. For you and
That'll be
Reardon.
good to hear. I'll bring an extra bottle of whiskey tonight for you.
Oh, good. Yes. Yes. Those peats, the peats in those bogs can be quite powerful. Thank you. I have to go prepare. Are you? I'm gonna go see. I gotta go visit Biddy really quickly, and then I'm going to work on some of those tricks I promised you.
Well, good luck on that. I was there walking by her place earlier, like I'm wont to do on my walks, and she seemed to be out and about at the time. So hopefully you'll have better luck than I will, than I did.
You didn't happen to see where out and about she was, did you?
No, that I really didn't. Just saw that she wasn't at home.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure she's not out for that long. She can't move too far out. If you get my meaning.
I think I do.
No offense to her, but anyway, thank you. I'll see you tonight. And Rory, you keep protecting this fine lass.
He barks and kind of like sits down, and he looks up, but there's not a big head.
Good boy. And I just kind of stumble off.
Fantastic. Now, in terms of timing, Biddy, I know you were out foraging for a bit and then meandering off to the seaside, having that entire moment of a fantastic sighting, but maybe a little bit of a pulled like thigh muscle at this point up into your side. Would you be doing anything else or heading back to your residence?
I think having now spent a bit too long behind a rock, I'll skip the foraging for mussels just because I've got my own mussels to take care of, and I'd be making my way back. Slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely.
Baskets
Fantastic.
full of plenty of other things. I've got herbs, I've got mushrooms.
Of course. I mean, as Biddy is known to be, of course it depends on the person you're speaking with, a resource, a complete wealth of information, and foraged goods. So, Biddy, as you are able to get back to your residence, your side's feeling a little bit better. You sense you might need just to rest, maybe taking a good meal to hydrate again. But Dolan, you do eventually come across Biddy's residence, which I assume you've been to once or twice.
A number of times, yes. Miss Biddy! Miss Biddy! Good morning.
Good morrow, darling. How are you doing?
Well, I'm good. I'm of course. I'm always okay. Now, have you been able to read this morning's dailies?
You know I don't read them, but you may sit here and read it to me while I bind up these herbs.
Right. You wouldn't happen to have any more things that you for the hangovers, the headaches, have you?
Sit on down, Dolan. I'll get you fixed up.
Thank you.
I'll probably put on a pot of tea, and also hand him. I imagine I'm able to get like raw eggs somewhere, fresh eggs as they were.
Oh, yeah.
Give him a cup of raw egg with some, salt and pepper and a few other herbs and such mixed into it, but a good old bit of the hair of the dog, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're a beautiful young lass.
Oh, that's adorable. And I realized I haven't described her yet. Biddy is in about her mid-60s, a wizened old woman with crackling grey hair and crackling crow's feet to match. Dark green eyes, but with a kind of broken in the centers with a piercing gold. So, yeah. But otherwise, she's not a young chicken, as it were.
Absolutely, which gives Dolan even more reason to treat her like a nice young lady.
Mm-hmm.
But I just show Biddy the headlines I caught, specifically about the rabbits. If she knows anything of the such, what would be going on there. See if it's possibly a lead.
Would that strike me as familiar at all?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The rabbits. Would that spark anything? Would it sound familiar for anything I'm aware of?
Understood. This is exclusively for flavor. Would you do a learning check?
Absolutely. 2 plus 2, so 4. 1 success.
1 success? Okay. So while the little bits of information that are given in this, because it's not incredibly in depth, it does seem as though it's like a recent event that's taken place. There's just mention of some local hunters have begun seeking assistance because they've noticed in the typical hunting grounds some very odd displays that were left. Rabbits that seem to be coated in some sort of black substance that have been hanging from trees. Now there's only mention of maybe a handful so far that have occurred over the last just a little over a week and a half. There's not specific information closer to it than that. And while you're thinking back on other displays you've seen similar to this, especially with an occultist background, you'd recognize that typically small animals can be seen as offerings in a sense. It's definitely odd for them to just be left somewhere if it didn't serve some sort of distinct purpose. So it's leaning in that direction of potentially an offering.
Well, now that's very odd, Dolan. I don't know that it would be associated with you, but it does pique my interest just in general. Might be worth, don't know that I would want to make that journey all the way there, but perhaps you could make it for me, bring back any other information, what that might be regarding.
Possibly. I could pick up some things here and there. I will be heading out tonight, but also I would love for you to accompany me on this fine um, gathering. It's young John Moore's birthday, and he's having his birthday party um, in his place that's close to, kind of adjacent to the
Oh, I'm
distillery.
aware. Oh, my dear, what do you think a woman like me would be doing at a place like that for a party?
Well, entertainment, of course. Look, we all need a little bit of gold here and there, and this will be a way to get it. I
Do you
figured you
need
can.
help, my dear? Hang on? I did put together a basket for you. And she'll kind of go kind of towards her kitchen area, and she has like pre-prepared a basket full of, dried meats, other foods, things she's already had, ready to go for a young man in need of lunch.
I start looking over myself, and I'm just like, have I really been that pathetic lately?
No, my dear, you know I make my wares in other ways, and I don't really fancy creaking these old bones as some kind of percussion to accompany your songs. But here, you take this, and if you
Well,
need anything else.
I figured you could come join me to possibly just entertain the thought of a seance, possibly, and communicate with, some of their ancestors. It could be fun. And okay, and it might get me a little bit of extra coin. Alright?
Now, my dear, if that's the kind of thing you'd be wanting me to do, you're going to need to clear that with the brothers first. I do no shadow work without clear invitation. Doors are not to be trifled with. Any doors you open, whether even frivolously meant, it is important that you do it carefully.
That I know more than anyone. But for entertainment purposes, I just kind of go through some of my ideas of, like, I know some tricks of the trade. I could put out candles. I could just make the doors open here and there, just make it look like scary. You don't even have, you could just say gobbledygook, blah blah blah, any kind of language that isn't even real.
Oh dear, I do not put on trifling displays of power. What I do is real. So, if you want me to accompany you, you clear it with them. You ask if that's the kind of entertainment they're interested in. But there's a reason I live outside of town. Most of those folks, they don't want to play with it even for fun, even frivolously. And certainly I'd be wary of doing such a thing in a place such as that. But I'll do it for you if I ask. But again, you must get clearance from the brothers first.
I kind of did.
Did you clear them now that it would be me doing any kind of shadow work in their home?
I might not have been specific with the name, but...
You be specific with the name, my dear.
All right.
There we go.
I'll go talk with them. You know what a persuasive person I can be. Now, and how about yourself? Anything I can get for you? You prepared all this for me. Nice little person, you. Now,
You
I
just
can
be
get
careful on the drams tonight, and that's enough you can do for me.
Well, if it means anything, I didn't have too much. I just had a little bit of water today. And a really, really strong cup of coffee.
Very good. Well, now you drink that up. Again, pointing to the cup of mixture she's given him.
Ugh.
There's a good lad. Put it down.
Wonder why I keep wanting to drink with something this good.
Anytime you need the cure, you come on back.
Right.
Now, regarding your brother, I don't think the rabbits are related. But if there's anything else you want me to look into, let me know.
What do you think the rabbits are then?
I'm not sure. But again, it appearing so recently, I wouldn't think it's necessarily related, just because it's in a similar region. Might be worth looking into, my dear, but I wouldn't trouble yourself too much about it. It sounds, again, piques my interest, but I wouldn't think it's necessarily related.
Would there be at any point where, if I get you to this party, do you think I'd be able to find evidence for you about my brother there? It's right in the same area.
We could certainly take a look, but we'd have to be careful. I don't need to get chased any further outside of town as it is. Can't be walking that far much these days.
No, I suppose not. Thanks for your help anyway. And I will get the clearance from Michael and John. Could use a little more entertainment besides my usual tricks in the bag. And I'll return with the news of my successful selling of the great Biddy.
Let us be careful on the titles there, my dear. But I'll await your return.
And I just make a big old flourish as I leave.
And following that, as now Dolan's goal is to go locate either of the brothers to get the approval for this seance and additional support from Biddy to occur. Aoife, how would you be preparing for this evening?
Probably first off, getting a good outfit set out for the night. Tending to the makeup and the hair.
Mm-hmm.
Probably have some of her attendants take care of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of thinking about things, topics to talk about with some of the other socialites.
Mm-hmm.
Packing up her oboe in case she needs it.
Mm-hmm. And it occurs to me, would you describe Aoife?
Right. Certainly would do that. And so, Aoife MacKenna, she is younger, reaching kind of the end of the 20s. Heavier build. She kind of the thing that stands out the most is that she's got bright blonde hair, whereas both her father and her mother had kind of mousy brown, so it's kind of a bit off-putting in comparison to the family. Reardon tended to be more like Da and kind of have more of a darker hair, but it's not really talked about in the family much. As far as dress, something green. You know, it's kind of cliche, but green is certainly her color.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of a nice little capelet, kind of a long gown. Nothing too incredibly formal, but, you know, formal enough to know, to tell the others that, you know, I'm here, I promise.
Fantastic. Now, Aoife, as you are getting ready, going through the motions, getting everything set up, speaking with, like, your attendants for assistance, any inquiry to Reardon that happens is met with a closed door, and you hear conversations occurring behind it. All talks about the distillery, about profit margins, about needing to replace equipment, and he seems very distant currently. He seems very engrossed in this work, and it's a non-committal answer of whether or not he'll be attending tonight. Is there any desire to encourage him to go, or is it just letting him be?
I'll give a little bit of a prod at first, just to test the water a little.
Okay. He seems to waver back and forth on it and saying, if I can manage to get stuff done in time, yeah, I'll try to show up. I mean, it's a birthday. It's only once a year, and they've been dealing with enough this last year, so probably be for the best.
Yeah,
I'll try.
It would mean a lot if you can make it. You've been working yourself half to the grave again.
Well, it's just feels like it never ends. Like something's always going to follow when something's going good.
Well, we'll just have to keep doing the best that we can.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
I'm gonna take. I'm planning on taking Dawes Kane to the event tonight. Is that you fine with that?
Yeah, that should be fine.
All right. It completes the look. I thought it would look good with the attire. I'm gonna finish getting ready. If you're planning on coming, let me know. We can go together, get the carriage ready.
I'll let you know.
All right. Well, don't work too hard, brother.
And he kind of nods, and he goes back and.
She'll cautiously close the door. Kind of like give a like little wave to his business partners and like slink back into the estate.
Now, Dolan, you're a man, an entertainer on a mission. Currently, where are we headed?
I am doing way too much walking for this morning. Okay. Oh, I'm just walking around, probably not looking as well as I did when I first walked out of my door. So I'm looking for either Michael or John, or even one of their parents if they're still around.
Absolutely, yeah. So you would know this is a no check necessary at this point. You're more than likely going to be running into either Michael or John. Their father, James, tends to be kind of engrossed. Doesn't really come out all that often. He's typically at the brewery getting work. It's work home for this guy. Their mother unfortunately did pass away several months ago. Let me go ahead and have, again, if you would like to make an observation check or a vigilance check. I'm just going to default to observation for you for this.
Yeah, 2 success.
It takes no time whatsoever. I mean, you're saying that you're not looking as good as you did at the beginning of the day, but like your eyesight's not failing you. As you're walking around, you do come across John once more, who seems to be like chatting up with a couple people. He's outside of like one of the general stores currently. Has a couple bags in his arms. He's speaking with someone.
John, what are you doing?
Oh,
what are you doing with carrying all these bags? I try to take one from him, and we break your back before your big day. Or big night, I should say.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Halvorson. I was just grabbing a couple things we needed for the house. Everyone's really busy. I thought I'd try to help.
Of course. You shouldn't be carrying all these by yourself. I find myself with a little bit of time on my hands, and if you don't mind, I could help you carry these back to your place. You said someone was with him?
Oh, yeah, he seems to be speaking with one of the shopkeepers that's currently there. One of the employees are speaking, just having a pleasant conversation. And if it's not too much trouble, sure, I'm not going to turn down company. And he says a pleasant goodbye to the person who was speaking with.
Hey, shopkeep. Good to see you today.
Morning.
Top of the morning. Sure. No, it's no wrong on my doing. Nothing out of my way.
That sounds great. I guess we could just head back. He starts kind of leading the way down the street.
Of course. Now, I was thinking for the entertainment, of course, I do my usual bag of tricks for about, let's say, an hour or two. I usually have a good hour-long show that I do every night. But then afterwards, we'd have some fun doing some possible trance or just entertaining possibly like Call of the Dead or anything like that, or just some fun dark magic, as they did back in they sometimes do that back down in London. They'd have group seances and call some relatives and such or anything like that. I don't really believe all that guff, but it's always fun to see what happens around that time.
you said calling on like people who've died.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like I said, I don't believe in all that stuff, but it can be a fun time, seeing how they kind of trick people into doing all those things.
Does
Huh?
it? So it doesn't actually work, or
Well,
can it?
I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I do know that it is a lot of fun just seeing people's reaction around the table.
Oh, I
It's,
suppose so.
I mean, honestly, if you bring if that last Emma comes, she might find a good time, uh, like just getting scared, and when she gets scared, probably jump into your arms. You know what I mean? Might might
Alright.
be a might be a good advantage for you if you know what I mean, right?
Go ahead and make a either manipulation or inspiration check.
What am I doing? Um, manip- okay, so 1, 2, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 8.
Ooh, okay.
Oh my god. Nope.
No
Not a single
successes?
one. Not a single
Okay.
one.
Okay, so
That checks. That checks.
there. It's a contested check, actually. So as he's kind of walking, and you notice even when you're just like kind of starting to prattle off a little bit and like fill the like open air of conversation between the two of you, that he starts looking a little bit distant, as though like he was almost slightly disappointed when you responded that you didn't think or you didn't know if it actually worked. And so he's just kind of vacantly looking off, like kind of preoccupied, like half listening at the moment.
Okay,
I I mean,
well,
if you
look.
think it's entertaining, I guess.
I think I think it's a bit fun. Whether it's true or not, I honestly do think it's a bit of fun. And look, it's really because I'm trying to help out a friend of mine. She finds herself on the outskirts of town and hasn't seen a lot of people. I just
Mm-hmm.
think it'd be good to get her out of the house for a bit.
Oh, so like to keep bringing like a +1 essentially.
Sure, yeah, it'd be a plus one on. It'd probably be a plus one for
Mm-hmm.
me, and it's just she's a nice lady. It's just not a lot of people talk to her a lot, but she is quite a good person, and I'd figured if she had a couple of moments to just have an hour to just show off that she's how good she is, she might get a better standing around the town, if you don't get my meaning.
I think I know who you're talking about. Um, I don't have an issue with it if it's and he stops walking and kind of like steps off to the side as some people are walking by and like lowering his voice until he starts speaking again. I mean, if she thinks it actually would work, that could that might be really interesting. I know that like I mean my like Michael always just says that it's pagan nonsense and all that, but
Well, the good thing to any show is if the performer believes what they're doing. And when I perform, I always believe what I do. And it's the same thing with her. So all that matters is that when she believes what she does, the audience will be in it with her. And it's very entertaining. And she, like I said, she's very kind at what she does. And she's a very kind person. Everyone just needs to see that.
well, I don't have a problem with it, Mr. Halvorson. If you want to bring someone else for to be a part of it, why we hired you. I would just say try to read the room at times. I guess I don't have a problem with this person. I think there's just some like differing. You know how people can be.
Of course, of course. No, she won't. I mean, she won't get too dark, per se. It'll just be a small thing, and again, entertaining and very sweet. I promise.
Well, that sounds fine with me. Mr. Halvorson, thank you, by the way, for helping me with all this.
Of
And he
course.
kind of like nods over as you're noticing a very large, nice house just off to the side, maybe about 20 feet down the sidewalk from you, with some tall, like wrought iron fencing around it. If you want to, I guess this is right here. I'm sure I could probably just grab like one of the attendants to help with that.
Of course, of course. I'll just kind of sit down right here. Thank you for accepting my offer. You won't forget this. Again, she's one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Oh, that's enough for me. So,
Excellent.
fantastic. And come hungry because we're gonna have like a ton of food. You should really smell it in there. It smells incredible.
I can't wait. Thank you.
Okay. Fantastic. You kind of grab the extra bag and starts heading inside. Yeah.
Okay, and as he leaves, is this the same area where the rabbits were kind of not the same adjacent area, but were the rabbits disappeared here, or?
So the rabbit, the story that you'd read within like the dailies was specifically about the bog that separates the area where you're at up in Clifton, and then a smaller town that's about just like 2 hours away on foot, known as Roundstone. So it seems like it's been closer to that particular town, not so much up in the Clifton at this time.
Okay.
It'd probably be quite a bit of a walk for you if you're wanting to try to speak with Biddy, prepare for the party, and get to the party in time.
I'm gonna speak to Biddy first.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. For expediency's sake, I would say you do traverse over to Biddy's house without problem.
Until I get there and tell her what happened.
Fantastic.
I feel like at this point I can hear him breathless approaching the house, and I'll open the door and just, come on in. Breathe, lad.
How does anyone do this much walking?
Well, I don't. That's how.
Well, short news, good news. I got you into the party. They were quite excited to hear about you coming in as a little bit of entertainment.
Was that so?
Yes. Well, I made good on them. I told them what a wonderful person you are, and what a kind person you are. You have the kindest eyes. You do know that, don't you?
I've never heard any such thing, Dolan, but you're very sweet.
Well, that's because you haven't seen too many people. And you'll see, you won't see too many people at this place, but, you'll see enough.
You're very
It'll be
sweet
fun.
for a word. All right. What time do you need me to be there?
6 o'clock.
Very good. All right. Now, go away, dear. Go do whatever it is you need doing to prepare. Maybe breathe a little bit, drink a bit of water, and put your hair back in place. You look a right mess.
Right. God. This will be the last bit of running I do for a good amount of time.
And this is why I don't do it. I'll be there, and I'll be ready to do... But again, I warn you, and I hope you were very clear. This isn't playthings. This isn't play acting. Any shadow work I do will be real.
Of course.
I'm not a performer as you are. I am what I am.
Oh, no. I just made it very clear that what you do is real and believable, and And the thing about performing is that when the person believes what they're doing, everyone else will believe it. So you'll be making a lot of believers tonight.
I don't know, new game system, who dis? Is there something akin to like an insight check I can make on him?
If you would like to, yeah, I would say this is going to be an observation, so observation and empathy. And if you would like to contest it, Dolan, this would be your choice of manipulation or inspiration with empathy.
I want to do it with the more dice, but part of me just wants to do one less dice for, which is the inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just I'll do the inspiration out of the kindness of my heart. All right, we'll see.
Because, like, yeah, Biddy doesn't really want to be around people, and she knows most of them don't like her and don't want to deal with her magic unless they have to. So,
I mean, and
what'd you get?
I got one success.
I got one success as well.
Oh no.
We could do an additional check if you would like. It's the same exact contested choices.
That'll be
Roll
fun.
off.
Rollies. 3.
Whoa.
1.
Oh. Okay.
So I believe him.
Say, you know he's a performer. You know he's a very charismatic person. There's undertones of this that ring true.
I just want to reassure you that I do think you're one of the more wonderful people. You kept me fighting and looking when I thought no one else would listen, and so your appreciation, it's very much appreciated. Yes. Okay.
As he stumbles through his words, she's just going to reach out with just one hand and just put it gently on his cheek, which I imagine is a kind of gesture she's done before. And we'll just say, now, you know, dear, we'll never give up on him either. But I encourage you also, you might at some point need to put the memory to rest. There are things that haunt us. There's many things that haunt us. And I'm not saying you have to give up, but you might want to start letting go, just a little bit. We'll do what we can. We never will stop. But I've lived enough life to know it's better to live life than dwell on the things that haunt us.
And Biddy, would you make a vigilance check for me?
Oh, goody. Not a 1.
Oh. What was that? Not 1?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you. Keep that in mind.
Dolan will just kind of hold back a tear, but slight grin, as he just takes Biddy's hand and just very very gently removes it. I'll see you at 6.
Very good.
And he turns to go back to his place finally.
Fantastic. Now, as we have the 3 investigators in their respective residences preparing for the party that is going to occur this evening, I think that's a good place for us to take a bit of a break. So we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Give us a chance to just kind of refresh and then get ready for the party scene, if you will. Perfect. We'll see you all soon. back, everyone. Thank you so much for waiting while we decided to, refresh, get to decompress a little bit, and then get back to the party, or party adjacent. We're going to see exactly how successful this party is today. But as a little bit of a reminder for where we're at, our three lovely investigators, Dolan, Biddy, and Aoife, had all been going about their typical days and in one way or another getting roped into going to a birthday party for an acquaintance to varying degrees of excitement. This will be interesting, to say the least, but for expediency's sake, a few hours have passed, each of you preparing in your own different way, whether it be Dolan figuring out exactly the tricks that you're going to be going through, exactly how you're going to be entertaining this audience. Biddy, apprehension, maybe. A lot of these people don't necessarily see eye to eye with you. There's not a lot of communication that often happens, and you're following the man who's going to be the center of attention for it. So it's a very drastic situation for you that you're probably used to. Aoife, you're familiar with these people. They're in the kind of upper rings of society for this particular area, and it's a different level of maybe comfort, maybe a little bit of nerves. I guess it just depends for you. But speaking of Aoife, why don't we go ahead and start with you? There was already some getting ready, getting into a nice dress, making sure that Rory was cared for the evening, as a dog probably wouldn't be the best fit for this type of party. As you're about to get ready, or about to leave, I should say, kind of getting the final touches, Kane, making sure you have like a nice jacket to go on to keep you warm. You start walking down the hall and you hear the sound of the door, like just off to your left, start opening up, which you would recognize as your brother's office. As he opens it up and he kind of looks at you, he looks very tired. There's dark circles underneath his eyes, but he gives you a smile and says, "Invite still open?"
Of course, Reardon, you can certainly come with. I'm glad that you're able to make it.
Yes, we were able to get a lot done today. Probably have to start early tomorrow, but we should go, support them. So.
Well, happy to have you. I'm sure the Moors would love to see you as well.
Of course. You look very beautiful tonight.
Thank you. Do you want to ask Kane? It might suit your look better.
Oh no, it's fine. I think it looks great with you.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
And he starts walking down the hallway, already nicely dressed. Seems to be kind of just like checking over a couple things before he leaves, but heads out to where you would have the carriage ready for the evening. Is there anything you would like to do prior to departing?
I don't think so. I don't think so. The only other things would be make sure that the carriage has a couple bottles of whiskey to bring with.
Perfect. Easy enough. Couple bottles are not a problem for you to acquire. And it is the finest whiskey. If anyone asks, they would be met with that answer immediately from your brother.
Exactly.
As you're getting in and getting ready, the carriage departs. It's only about 10 minutes for you, as there is a stop that needs to be made. Some papers are dropped off, and then they proceed forward. Biddy, I am curious, what does Biddy's getting ready for this party look like?
Oh, she'd be putting on kind of the nicest clothes she has, which are morning clothes, all black. And then I think unfolding from a trunk, a shawl crocheted, almost in the shape of wings, something from her mother, who I think is probably also one of the sources that she learned from. There might have been some tension there between her mother and her. but she's always tried to, anytime she puts the shawl on, it's a sense of the wings wrapping around her are like the arms of a mother, and she tries to wrap herself in it and believe that she is her mother's daughter. And then she'd be getting out her ceremonial bowl, putting it in a basket, and has a few other things as well, just for that, things for calling to the corners. So she has a dagger, but it's a utility knife basically, a kind of small little bundle of black feathers, another almost like a cooking pot but very tiny, little cast iron, mini cooking bowl, which is another thing already from my inventory. And then on the way out, with these things in a basket, she'd kind of search around the ground right outside her front door, just to find as round and as perfect of a stone as she could.
Perfect. No check necessary. You find a sufficiently round and smooth stone for this.
Seaside, plenty of round stones to be found.
Definitely. And it's a bit of a walk for Biddy, if that is her method of transportation. It'll be quite a bit of walking, especially for a woman who just dealt with some, not necessarily injuries earlier in the day, but some strains. It'll be a few minutes, to say the least. But Dolan, would you describe exactly what Dolan is doing to prepare for this event?
Rehearsing. He is, Dolan is kind of going over his spots, kind of handwriting a presentation to make things for Biddy as painless as possible for the show, because yes, he did put her in that situation, and he just does not want anything to go wrong, which of course naturally probably will. But he's just like working on his classic magic tricks, the lights, see if he can make the candles like flicker, any kind of like illusionary magic that he's kind of learned over his time. He'll go over like any songs that he kind of goes over, makes sure his instruments are nice and tuned, and he's experiencing a little bit of pain from all the walking he did in the morning. So yeah, he'll take a little bit of a dram before getting himself ready, making sure he smells nice and good, gets his makeup on, packs his scripts and fine wine, just in case. He brings his pistol with him, make sure that's all good. Puts on his brother's silver cross around him, then just like gives it a little kiss and puts it in his shirt, as you would, and prepares to walk out. And he will be walking as well.
Fantastic. So we have two people walking. It started at this point. The sun's gone mostly down. There's still adequate lighting throughout the streets as you're traveling by foot. It's not an issue for Aoife and Reardon being taken there by carriage. It's a much smoother sense of travel for you. But if I could, for Biddy and for Dolan, could you each make vigilance checks for me?
Yay. One success.
3.
Fantastic. So, and I'm sorry, Biddy was at 1?
Just one.
Just one. Okay. As you're walking throughout the streets, essentially this vigilance check is seeing how much of your surroundings you're aware of at the time. You notice there's a couple people that are also walking nearby, not necessarily walking in the same direction. They'll pass you on the street, maybe step off to the side, a brief good evening, and walking on. However, Dolan, with 3 successes, you start feeling this odd feeling, like this sense of pressure. It's one that you are not entirely unfamiliar with. It's one that you've had for a few years at this point. It comes and it goes, and you feel it again, as though there's watchful eyes on you that weren't matching with the people that were passing.
He stops briefly and just looks around.
As you're glancing, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just like tries to keep the smile on to make sure no one looks like, when no one looks at him suspiciously. I'm just like smiling, looking around, and yeah.
Fantastic. And you said you're wearing a silver cross, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. You're kind of glancing around and trying to find the source of this like weird, deep-seated feeling of like being watched. You're just noticing some people passing by again. No one really stops to say anything. But then you do notice a familiar, smaller form walking a bit slower, maybe a few blocks away from you. You would recognize as Biddy. Biddy, I would say in this sense, I'm going to be messaging you something with your one success.
Whispers in this game, what?
Whispers. Oh. And she's tottering along, creaky and still a bit broken from this morning.
I apologize.
Okay.
Is that coming through the Discord or the Zoom?
Through the Zoom, I apologize.
No worries.
It's like as soon as you need to type, my fingers decide, no, you don't. You're going to type everything incorrectly. Perfect.
Interesting. And the feeling I have is a familiar one, correct?
Yes.
Very good. Good evening, Dolan.
Biddy. Hello, you're looking very good, nice tonight.
Oh, very good. Now come here. Give me your arm. I've walked a long way.
Of course. All right. I go on her, whichever side she considers the weak side. And
probably the left, in the sense that the basket would already be in my right hand. So
there you go. And just walk with her to the place. You didn't happen to notice anything walking while you were able to walk, were you?
What do you mean?
I'm sure. Just got a feeling, that's all.
The air is heavy tonight. I think we should proceed with caution.
Aye.
Okay. And as I choose...
Sorry,
go ahead.
Question.
Yes, question.
The feeling is one I associate with Dolan and not with my own concerns, correct?
Yes. This one does feel distinctly different from the other concerns you've mentioned.
Very good.
Sure.
And I'll just keep an extra eye out as I lean on Dolan.
Okay.
I'm just going to make a guess, and when you described a small figure, I didn't immediately assume it was Biddy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So there was a brief hesitation as I came over to you. Not sure if you noticed it or not, but there was a brief hesitation.
Yeah, as the two of you are now essentially proceeding forward together, we're going to say, Aoife, considering the transportation differences here, you were going to be arriving slightly earlier than Dolan and Biddy, even with the stop for your brother's business-related concerns. Now, you've been to the Moore residence previously, maybe a few times. At this point, I mean, while one brother's a bit older than you, the other's a little bit younger, it's matching ages with your older brother. You've seen them since they were kids. So this large, really nice house that to the untrained eye, or to someone maybe not of your particular spot in life and society, it looks grand. It looks absolutely perfect. You notice that there's some slight disrepair to it here and there. You notice that the amount of attendees who are present have definitely lessened from events that you've been there and witnessed in the past. But as you arrive, it's entirely lit up. The front door is propped open, and you know some people standing outside and starting to be ushered in. Familiar faces. And as Reardon steps out of the carriage, he kind of extends his arm up to help you also get out.
I'll accept and
Perfect.
disembark.
Well, I guess it was Michael organized this. Was that right?
Michael organized it. It's for John's birthday, yes.
Got it. He's your age, right? How old is he?
He's a bit younger. Early mid-20s.
Okay, understood. I feel like I'm getting them mixed up with the age of the O'Sullivans. I'm sorry, I'm very tired still. Please, after you, and he'll kind of offer for you to enter first.
All right, I will go inside.
Perfect. So as you're entering in, you do see some familiar faces. The aforementioned O'Sullivan sisters are present. The two of them are a little bit older than you are currently, very close in age, only about 2 years separating them. Kate and Eliza both have very freckled skin, kind of hair pulled tightly back, a little bit of a lighter brown color, but wearing incredibly beautiful dresses, seem to be having a conversation with another, speaking with John, who's also just barely inside the residence at this point. You hear the sounds of some music playing from inside. Excuse me. Someone seems to be singing as well. You can't quite make out the words, but there's someone in there currently performing as it is, and it smells incredible. So if you're hungry, there are some food options available. What would you like to do as you're entering?
First off, hand the jugs of whiskey to the attendants.
Fantastic.
Be added to the bar. Probably find a nice little spot to stash my oboe case for the time being, unless it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
Probably go around, say my hellos to everyone.
Fantastic.
Probably have to adjust the dress a couple of times. Make sure that the hair, long blonde hair, is still pulled up.
Mm-hmm.
Probably go get something to drink and socialize for a little bit.
Absolutely.
Before probably having something from the buffet, but only after some of the other guests help themselves first.
Definitely. While you're going through and essentially just getting yourself comfortable at this point, would you go ahead and make a observation check?
All right. 5, so that's 7. 5, 6, 7. That's 1 success.
1. Perfect. So as you're walking around, you found a place off essentially an additional closet that you noticed some people had hung up their coats in. You went and set down the case that you'd carried in and anything else that you'd like to leave here temporarily. And you hear a stumble maybe 10 feet away from you, and you see kind of a hand that seems to be coming out across from a doorway, kind of holding itself up. As he starts walking forward a little bit, you do notice that this is Michael standing there. He's having a moment, kind of glancing around, has a drink in his hand, and just kind of sipping it. He appears to be, with your check, a little bit intoxicated already.
Lovely party you've been throwing there, Michael. Good evening to you. I hope you're doing all right.
Oh, Aoife, thanks for joining.
Of course,
yeah,
of course.
I think it's pretty good so far. Hopefully it stays that way.
Something to be aware of, or just high hoping?
Well, John let it slip that we were expecting a guest I wasn't expecting, and now there's all this talk about some seance or something that's supposed to happen. I don't know. I mean, like, I get it as much as the next person, but at the same time, it's just like, is that really what we need to be dealing with right now? Like, I'm just lucky my dad's not here, you know?
Seance? Is old Biddy coming?
Yeah. Yeah, apparently.
Well, I'll look at it this way. It's probably one of the healthier options for John to be looking into for morning. That way, he can move at his own pace. Never real easy losing a family member like that. But look at it this way. Maybe he's just trying to find an outlet for the time being to help with the grief.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Aoife, do you think it'd be like wrong of me not to be here for this? I just don't know that's like how I really want to be processing it.
If you don't feel comfortable with it, you can certainly make an excuse to take your leave for the time being. I'm sure there's some sort of excuse you could be taking. Say maybe you've got to step away for some business with the brewing company.
I like that idea. That's a great idea, Aoife. Actually, there's like a ton I wasn't able to finish today. Thank you. Please, enjoy the party, I guess. And he starts like walking over, having a little bit of trouble staying completely in a straight line. But he goes over, starts talking with someone else, kind of clasping their shoulder and leaning into them. Now, around this time, Dolan, Biddy, you are now just turning the corner and getting to a house that you were just at earlier today, Dolan, with helping John bring some groceries home. You see that there's a couple people outside, but most of the people have filtered in at this point, and you hear some music coming from within.
Oh, looks like the entertainment's already starting. That's good.
I think it seems to be the case. I think Dolan might notice Biddy does actually grip his arm a little tighter, because she is nervous.
You'll just be fine. Everyone will see what a nice lady you are.
If you get me driven out of this town, Dolan, I'll tan your hide.
Come on. What could go wrong between this freaking last words?
Indeed. Let's go.
Okay. So as you're entering in the lovely residence you'd seen earlier today, Dolan, you're welcomed in. There's one of the attendants at the front that are offering to like help you take any like if there's props or anything additional you need set aside for the entertaining process, and kind of giving you direction to like the main living space where everything is set up.
I just asked where the room, where the specific room for the seance, where you could have the seance would be, if they know about it.
A nice side room would be appreciated, rather than the whole grand room, as it were.
Hey. Then I just give my props, let them know where to set it up, and ask who is playing the piano right now, so if they wouldn't mind either an accompanist or someone to take over for them after a break.
Absolutely. The first attendant that you're speaking with young woman, darker hair kind of pulled back and some light curls. Says, there is a side room that we have available. It's a little bit small, but we use it for like some small gatherings, I guess. Would this be sufficient? And she starts leading you off down a hallway and into a room that's about 15 feet by 15 feet. There's some bookshelves lining each of the two walls to your left and right, and then a larger window that's letting in some of the wood blended natural light were at daylight out.
This will do. Could I request that there be a table placed in the center of the room, and I will need a vase of water if you don't mind. And then also, do you mind my asking, this window, do you know which cardinal direction it faces?
Oh, this window? I believe it's to the east.
Very good.
Okay. And you needed a table and what else?
Just a vase of water.
Oh, yes, of course. I'll be right back. I'll have one of the men bring in the table for you. Would like a standard dinner size table work?
Oh, that'll be right. It could be smaller. A couple of chairs.
Absolutely. Yes, we'll have that all brought in for you. And she kind of starts making her way off to the side. A couple of them bring in a larger table probably than what you really need, but it's probably one of the smaller ones they have. Place it into the center. They start moving some of the chairs that were already placed in here that aren't necessarily going to work for this and bringing in some actual like dining chairs, essentially. And some water is brought in for you, and they're kind of awkwardly standing there. I think the guy on the piano was just wrapping up if you wanted to take on out there.
I think I will. If you don't mind, Miss Biddy.
No, by all means, Dolan. You go on. I have things to do here.
And if you'd like, I'd take all the way attention away from you and just put it directly on me. I'm pretty good at that.
Very good. You'll leave them here when you want me to do what it is you've asked me to do, but otherwise I'll wait here.
Hey, relax. It's gonna be fun.
Fantastic. So once if you're heading back into like the main area of the party, you do see young John. He's over speaking with a girl he seems to be quite taken with. You'd seen earlier, and you do notice that over to the side is a familiar face, Aoife, and it seems that Reardon is somewhat looming nearby. Almost looks a little bit not uncomfortable, but just very reserved at the moment. And if I would say you do notice the new attendants that have joined.
Excuse me. I'll first off go say hi to Mr. Halvorson. I'll get up, close. Then kind of, you notice a little bit of a look of uncomfortableness when she approaches you. And then she kind of takes a few steps back. Oh, it's good to see you, Mr. Halvorson. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Doing fine. I'm just about to entertain the crowd here on some tickling of the ivories, as it were. And then and also Miss Biddy afterwards will be doing a presentation of some sorts. If you get my meaning.
You're the one who brought her. Michael asked me about that earlier.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure John let him know.
He didn't seem too keen on the idea, to be honest.
Well, why? I mean, not seem keen on the idea. It'd be a great way to entertain.
Well, you do know that the young Moors lost their mother a few months ago, right?
Oh, bloody hell.
I think that John might be using this as a method of coping with her loss.
Oh, bloody hell. I completely forgot about that. Oh, well, what do I do? Well, it has to be someone they could possibly... I'm sure she'll find a way around all that. How could I forget that? That was oh, ooh, okay. Well, have you seen Michael around?
I believe he is helping himself to some of the festivities, and then might be going to do a nip of work just to stay away from
That probably is a good idea.
the festivities. He wasn't really comfortable with the idea for grieving purposes.
Aye, aye. Dolan, you right idiot. Aye. Okay, well, um, I'm sure, I'm sure it'll be okay. I'm sure nothing will come of it. He's not going to be in that room. John will just be there and entertaining his lovely lass Miss Emma. Shouldn't
What
be anything.
is what is the intention with the séance? Is there a particular person that you were hoping to reach out to, or
No,
were you gonna take requests?
I was just gonna take. Well, whatever however Biddy wants to do it, I was just gonna take some kind of request. Um, I mean, she she tried with my brother, and that didn't turn out very well. And what am I talking about? I this is going to be okay. I'm not going to try and summon my brother again because nothing happened last time. So whatever they have over there after my show is over should be fine. I mean,
I'm I guess I'm just not familiar. Biddy would know more than I would. I'm just a
aye,
bit of a cottage hobbyist when it comes to it, but with the
aye.
seance, you have to be reaching out for someone. I haven't really heard of it being done as an entertainment or a performance act before.
Oh, they do it all the time in England, London.
Really?
Hey,
I haven't heard of any of that in my times at Dublin.
well, sometimes news gets out here a little bit slower than other places, but I'm pretty well traveled.
Right. Do you want me to go talk to Biddy so she knows what she's gonna be in for?
No, no. I think things will be okay. I think things will be just fine. Where you were bringing whiskey, were you not?
I did. Is that with the attendants probably at the bar already?
I
Don't
think.
don't nip into it too much. You have to perform, don't you?
Oh, just a little bit of a warm, uh, warm bit of things wouldn't hurt. And
Well, why while you're going there, why don't you show you remember my brother here then? Uh Mr. Halvorson, you've met before. Do you want to go get some refreshments with him? Might help you loosen up a little bit, brother.
Oh, hi, Mr. Halvorson. Definitely, I'm up for a drink if you are.
oh, absolutely. Thank you, Aoife. Reardon, I am very familiar with your distilleries. It's been very close to actually where my house was.
Oh, really?
Well, it was near the kind of the my family's hunting grounds
Oh,
a while back.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and well, I have some stories to tell you. You have a very fine distillery, by the way. There's some very smoky peats, if you get my meaning.
I absolutely do. I would be remiss to say to not say it were the best.
Oh, I would absolutely agree with you there. Shall we?
Absolutely, please. And he'll start heading in the direction of the bar. Now,
As will Dolan.
perfect. Now, Biddy, is there anything you are doing in preparation leading up to the performance that Dolan is about to give? I'm very intrigued to see what this is going to be. Oh, yes. Sorry, Aoife?
I would certainly like to ask where the extra performance is being held.
Absolutely. And
I would actually
So
tell.
if Aoife's making her way over to me, she'll find me in the little side room, actually orienting the chairs. How many chairs do they bring in? Like one or two, or like multiple?
oh, they probably brought in several at that point in time, like at least 4.
I would make sure there's one chair for myself and one chair directly across from my own, kind of set at somewhat of an angle, so that the window that faces east is kind of like diagonally off to my right. So ahead of me to my right, I'm orienting myself kind of in a crossroads of the corners. So the north being to my top left, and then, or excuse me, south to my top left, and east to my top right.
Fantastic.
And then putting out my little pieces.
I would say, Aoife, at that point in time, had you asked if Dolan hadn't shared, any of the attendants would have been able to direct you to the location where Biddy is currently getting set up.
Wouldn't be that hard for Biddy to, notice Aoife coming. The bright top of blonde hair is kind of hard to miss in this sort of gathering.
Indeed.
Hi there, Miss Biddy. I surprised to see you here.
Surprised as I am to find myself here. Good evening, Aoife.
Good evening. So the great the Lord Michael told me that you'll be doing a bit of a séance here tonight.
Apparently, that is what I've been asked to do. I did warn Dolan. I don't do any workings for play or for playthings, so I hope he has made it very distinctly clear to anyone who participates. This will be genuine shadow work.
Do you happen to have a person of interest already pre-selected, or would you be reaching out to the audience, as it were?
I believe the idea would be to offer it to the birthday boy himself, in which case I am most concerned that I know precisely who he'll be wanting to commune with, being his mother so recently passed.
Right, I wanted to bring that up just to make sure that it's something that you should be expecting. Mr. Halvorson, bless his heart, didn't seem to take that into account when peddling your services.
I had a feeling, and I did try to make it explicitly clear I don't do anything for show. I told him, though, if this gets me removed from the town, I'll be tanning his hide on my way out.
I certainly don't think it would come to that.
Well, you know how much more of this town is Catholics and the like. And I don't know how comfortable they'll be with myself here.
I mean, that's at least one good thing that we have Mr. Halvorson's for. That cross of his ain't the only thing silver among him. Got quite a good silver tongue on him. Probably could convince the folk that it's just a bit of showmanship, if it comes to it.
If it comes to it. We'll see. Perhaps, at the very least, I can offer a genuine measure of comfort to the young man. John, that is.
Aye. Well, it's good to see you here. If you need anything, or if you want, if you need anything fetched from the refreshments table, I could certainly bring you something.
It's very kind. I think I'll stay clear of it until my business is finished, and then we'll see how it's received.
All right, fair. Listen, don't tell Reardon I said this, but we came with our family carriage. If you need to make a quick getaway, just tell them that the Lady MacKenna gave you the go-ahead to borrow it for a bit of a trip.
You're most kind, darling.
I try. Better ask. It's better to ask for forgiveness than it is permission, they say.
Indeed. Now, why don't you be going? Get yourself to that party. Enjoy it before I bring the mood down.
All right. Take care of yourself.
You as well, darling.
Fantastic.
She'll just sit and wait.
As Biddy is sitting and waiting, Aoife heading back into the party, I believe it's about time for a performance from a particular entertainer. So, Dolan, I am very intrigued. What is prepared?
First of all, off is going to be a simple, kind of a ukulele performance. Yeah, it's going to be a simple ukulele performance, and a tap show, for at least 5 minutes. And then he's gonna go around doing parlor magic, with the crowd, like simple like pickpocketing and stealing of scarves, stealing of kisses, from anyone, men and women, and pocket watches and then just fun parlor stuff. Finishing off with. Finishing off on the piano, and it's very vaudevillian piano because he's playing with his hands on the one end, and for those little bass notes, he uses his foot.
Amazing. Now, I would go ahead and ask that you make either an inspiration or manipulation check on this one, given the different styles of performance that you're putting on. And I would like to also offer a +1 advantage to you for this.
So would that mean 9 dice?
I believe so.
Or
because you partook in the beverages, correct?
I did.
Liquid courage.
One success.
Well, one is all you need.
And that's the advantage dice.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank goodness for liquid courage.
Yeah.
As this performance is going on, it's quite a sight to behold. Biddy, you're probably hearing it more than anything and hearing the responses of the other party goers with some clapping, some laughs that are occurring. Every now and again, someone kind of elbowing someone into the side of like, you fell for that one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have fallen for that if I were you.
I'll Weird Al some classic Irish tunes.
Amazing. And with that, there's some laughs that follow as well. But ultimately, a performance well spent. People are clapping at the end. You notice that they're starting to kind of tire down a little bit at this point. Some people are starting to kind of whisper amongst themselves, like people are getting some glasses, as though they're about to start giving toasts to the birthday boy.
Excellent. But I see some of you starting to yawn off? I know I've been spending most of the time entertaining you all for the evening, but for those that want to stick around, please do, as you will be presented with a magical, mystical journey with our friend, the beautiful Biddy.
And both Aoife and Dolan, could you make observation checks for me?
Oh, 4.
4?
Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's fantastic for an observation check. I would say Dolan to start, and this will be the same for Aoife. You'll just get a little bit more information. Dolan, you notice that when you're going through your introduction, still keeping people's attention, the mention of the beautiful Biddy. Some people, a couple people may, raise their eyebrow, there's some knowing glances between one another. A couple people, kind of, nod, have an odd exchange, as though they're probably a little bit confused as to why Biddy is here. Um, Aoife, I would say that you notice a bit more in terms of like the interactions between individuals at that point. You would notice that John, the obviously the person everyone's here to see and celebrate, looks a little bit apprehensive, but he actually starts to smile a little bit. He's sipping on a drink and he looks strangely hopeful. The However, there are some people who appear not as excited about this. Specifically, you do notice Peter and Anne Gallagher, brother and sister that are nearby, who are like intensely glancing at one another, and like one raises their eyebrow like incredibly high Anne does, and she like starts tapping her foot a little bit, and you notice that Peter starts to go grab some stuff as though they're about to be leaving.
I'm gonna go over and talk with them.
Okay.
Just see how they're doing. Friendly chit chat.
Fantastic. Is there a particular one you're approaching first, Peter or Anne? Peter did step away.
I'll go for Anne first.
Okay. So Anne's standing there, kind of glancing over, like her vision follows Peter as he's leaving to go back to like the attendants to get their belongings before they head out. And her stature is like frozen. She seems so stiff at the moment. She has her hands clasped together, and she's normally a very friendly, like positive demeanor to be around, even in, you know, some of the tense situations you've had to be on the receiving end of. She's always been cordial to you. So she seems a little bit absent, like not quite paying attention to whoever's approaching her.
Pleasant evening to you, Anne. How are you? How are you and your brother enjoying the party?
Oh, hi, Aoife. It's been great. I think I'm getting a little tired, though. We're probably going to be heading home, I think.
Understandable. Well, I'm glad to hear you had a good time. You know, shame to see you leaving so early, but
I'd say.
Is there anything that I could go fetch for you and your brother?
I think Peter was getting everything for us, but thank you. It's very kind. I'm sorry.
Of
that
course,
was rude.
of course.
Have you been enjoying your evening?
For the most part, it's been an enlightening gathering, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Been talking up with some of the folks around here.
Oh, that's
bigger turnout than we were expecting, which is always a good sign.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I was a little concerned with, you know, the brewery and all, if people would still be wanting to come over.
Their hearts are in the good place, are in the right place, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's nice to see some unity.
Yeah, everything all right? You seem bothered by something.
Oh, I'm just I'm not feeling all that good. I think I'm probably just going to head out. And would you make an observation check once more for me?
Sure. Okay. 2.
2 successes? Oh, well, yeah, Aoife sees all, pretty much.
It helps that I have a +7.
That is so nice. So at that point in time, when she's kind of starting just to say she's not feeling all that well, Peter is walking up next to you. You hear his footsteps coming up from behind you, and you're able to kind of keep note as he's approaching. He kind of like, oh, hi, Aoife, and like steps around and is handing over like a jacket to his sister, and just seems to be checking his pockets to make sure he has everything. Are you ready to go?
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear your sister's not feeling well. Anything I can do to help?
Oh, I think, and he seems to be glancing to her, kind of like also like grasping his hands together, just feeling almost like a nervous tick a little bit. Just like self-soothing at that point. And she's looking up at him. No, I'm fine. Thank you, Aoife. I appreciate that. I just I don't really think that this next performance is necessarily for us.
Well, I understand. Between you and me, keep it on the down low. I think this is John's way of trying to come to terms with his dear ma's passing. So just don't hold it against him. I think we all go through a few things when we're grieving loved ones.
I suppose that's a good point. It's a nice way of looking at it. I just wouldn't go about it the same way. But
like I said, don't hold it against him. Those Michael and John are going through quite a lot right now.
That's true. You have a point, Aoife. I hope you have a good night. It was very nice seeing you. I love your dress, by the way. It's beautiful.
I love yours. You look lovely as well.
Thank you. Anyways, I think we're just gonna go so we don't have to like draw attention to ourselves. Have a good night.
Perfectly fine. Good night.
And they start kind of shuffling away. It seems they're being deliberate in not trying to cause a distraction or really gain a lot of attention from choosing to leave. Especially after their demeanor did slightly change after you brought up the point of grieving, to where it seemed like they were a bit more understanding in their departure. But now. So, Dolan, Biddy, Aoife. I believe there's one more performance that needs to take place, and you are retaining quite a crowd.
Well, assuming they all make their way eventually into the room.
Fantastic.
I'll play the role of kind of usher as they all gather around.
Absolutely.
And if you at some point pass near Biddy, she'll just put a hand on your shoulder to say, "I've got it from here, Dolan."
Okay. Dolan.
Oh. Sorry.
Dolan's gonna stand outside of the door. Well, inside of the door, just as he observes, just to keep an eye on everyone.
Now, Master John.
Yes, hi. Do I call you Biddy? Is that correct, or?
Aye, that's right and fine. As it is, in fact, your celebration, I thought I'd make the offer first to you, but you don't have to accept it. Don't do what I do for an unwilling person. But if you would like, I have been asked to come here and offer a communing with the ones we've loved and the ones we've lost.
Yeah, I think that I would like to accept that.
Very good. So then if you'll sit in the chair just opposite mine, and of course any other folks who'd like to take the seats may, but I'll just ask that you keep your hands off the table.
Okay. He starts walking around to the side, kind of glancing over. The young woman standing next to him seems to be kind of following and just standing behind. He sits across from you. The other two seats do remain open. Dolan, as you're watching, having ushered everyone in, you feel kind of a tap on your shoulder, and just like off to your right hand side. You do notice a young man who's standing next to you who looks familiar. Probably the name doesn't immediately come to you. But he appears to be like someone you've seen out and about with like some of Aoife's friends. His first name you recognize as Henry. It comes to you eventually. He's not like, it's Dolan, right?
Yes, it is. I'm stage whisperer. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's a good performance, by the way. This is gonna sound kind of weird, but were you out in the bog earlier today?
No.
Or was...
I mean, been to that bog before, but I mean, not today.
Eh, Okay, sorry. Never mind. He kind of like starts glancing off to the side.
Hold on.
Uh,
Like,
what?
like, I wasn't out there, but you saw someone who did it look like me?
I don't know. I'm not very good with faces. So I probably got it wrong, but it kind of did. I know it sounds weird. I'm a hunter in the area, so like for pastime for game, and normally I know people I come across, but I thought I saw it. I'm sorry. I was probably wrong.
Nah, I step outside with him
Oh, okay.
and grab him by his arms just to make sure like the crowd is inside with Biddy is not doing their thing, but make sure there's like no one around us and just like look me directly in the eyes. I want you to take a good look at me.
Okay.
Who did you see in that bog?
It kind of looked like you.
Was he looked like me?
Yeah. I mean, similar to you. I mean, I think your hair was a little bit different, but
I immediately look back inside to see how far in the seance that Biddy is in,
Mhm.
and just go directly to my stuff, find a quiet kind of outhouse or something like that, like a private room that I can kind of look through it. And I kind of act to the attendants that I'm just packing up my stuff after the show, and I immediately look for my pistol.
Okay. Yeah, your pistol's in there. You would notice it as you were glancing to see Biddy's just essentially getting set up, or still trying to see who the other two seats who they'd be occupied by.
After I grab my pistol, and I'll head back towards the seance room, see if I can make small eye contact with Biddy, and kind of make some kind of signal that someone has seen something in the bog, or just like a signal that I'm going outside to her. I'll be right back.
I would say
I'm pretty occupied with what I'm doing, so I don't know if you would need me to make a check to see if I notice him.
I would, yeah, need a check. I would say this is going to be either vigilance or an observation.
Observation, because I have slightly more for that.
Fantastic.
It's all threes.
Oof.
5 dice, all threes.
Oh, oof.
Yeah, Dolan,
Nazi.
as you're glancing in, Biddy seems to be like in conversation with John at the time, kind of
Okay.
working with some of the items that are on the table and just like kind of glancing. There's a lot of people that are watching her right now. It's probably a fairly anxious situation.
Okay. Not even thinking about leaving her alone because I'm about to leave her alone. I find an attendant and just see if one of them can take a message for me to give to Biddy when they have the chance.
Absolutely. The younger woman who'd helped you earlier would be available and she'd be able to give any message. Just let me know what you want me to tell her.
Just let her know that something's been seen, and I will return once the seance, or once everything is completed.
Okay. That seems very straightforward. I'll go let her know.
And do I even see is Aoife in the room as well?
Aoife, did you enter? I assumed so.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably I'd probably just say ask her, give it to Aoife to give to Biddy.
Okay, I will let Aoife know to tell Biddy that something's been seen and that you'll return after the performance.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, definitely. Yes, sir. And she kind of starts walking in, trying to be very careful with her steps. Aoife, question. Are you, with observing this seance, are you choosing to sit down in one of the chairs? Are you staying standing? How are you observing this?
Probably staying standing.
Okay. You feel a light tap on your shoulder, um, and a softer female voice you recognize from earlier being helped. Um, I'm sorry, Mr. Halvorson wanted me to let you know to let Miss Biddy know that something's been seen and he will return after the performance.
Well, thank you for letting me know that.
Of course. Let me know if there's anything else I can do.
Of course, no problem.
And she kind of, you hear her footsteps kind of trail away.
She starts chewing on her tongue, kind of with a little bit of a look of frustration at the man's actions.
That's fair. Biddy, would you make a vigilance check for me?
Oh, I. One success.
One. Okay. So vigilance is being kind of like aware of your surroundings, essentially. While you may be setting up, you kind of glance off to the side and you notice that Aoife's expression has changed a little bit. And the fact that you saw the young woman attendant who was speaking to her and they appear to be whispering back and forth. And there's going to be a slight difference of expression on Aoife's face.
I'll just note it, but I'm focused on the business at hand.
Absolutely.
And I'll revisit that once this is all finished.
Fantastic. So, Dolan, have you left the building? Oh, Aoife.
Is there anyone else other than Henry who... Actually, no. Is there anyone who's good at hunting in the area, amongst the crowd?
Oh, amongst the crowd? Yes, definitely. Most of the men that are present here do hunt recreationally. So almost any of them
Who's
that
the
you'd be able to
best
speak
one
with.
at it?
The best one would probably... it's close between... Oh, Peter has already left. So it is likely John.
All right. Who is the best of it that's not part of the
The
party
seance.
proper?
Probably Henry at that point.
All right. I am going to approach Henry.
Mhm.
I really hate to ask this of you, but how attached to the rest of the party are you?
Like watching this performance. I mean, I was looking forward to some cake, but aside from that, I think I'm okay.
She's gonna pull out a pouch. I've got a few pound sterling for you if you go keep an eye on Mr. Halvorson. I've been getting the understanding that he might be doing something right foolish, and I don't want him out on his own. If he's doing that.
Sure, I guess I could tail him.
I will I'll give not obviously not enough to drop a resource, but like an exorbitantly high amount of
Fantastic.
coin to do that.
He pockets it at that point. You would know Henry while he's present here. His family's not necessarily like of the old money that a lot of these other families are, but he's connected. So he happily welcomes the extra cash flow. Yeah, I guess I'll go tail him. I feel like I should probably mention to you, I think I'm the reason he left. I hope that doesn't affect this arrangement.
Not at all.
Okay.
Whatever you told him, you still don't control his actions. That's on him.
Fair point. I'll if you'll excuse me. And he starts kind of glancing, giving polite nods to the people that are nearby, and starts shuffling out. So, Dolan,
All right.
go back to you. Were you choosing to leave the residence?
I think like I step outside. I do step outside. Do I see Peter?
Peter outside. I would say at this point, they have likely already left.
Completely left? Okay.
Yes.
Sure. He before he it kind of is going to probably step outside, head for that bog. Before he does, he's got to take a moment to just say a quick prayer, um, and just hoping that it is who he thinks it is.
Okay.
As very likely it isn't, but he's very hoping that it is.
Absolutely. So you're taking a moment, kind of preparing, saying a quick prayer, and then heading off into it, essentially heading off into the night at this point, alone, as far as you're aware. Please make a vigilance check for me. This is going to be contested against the person who is currently tailing you stealth.
Oh gosh, Dolan, what are you doing, man? Oh, logic. I'm sorry, vigilance.
Yes.
For that. One success.
Okay. As you're starting to get a little bit further out, to like the outskirts of town, you kind of feel like it's odd, like that feeling of someone's here with you, and you're kind of glancing over your shoulder really quickly, and you do notice that just a few blocks behind you, you see a figure following you. Since it is dark out, you're not able to recognize exactly who it is, but it does seem like someone, as you glanced over, stops walking, and like kind of just like doesn't proceed forward anymore.
I'll try to lose the figure.
Trying to lose it. Okay, fantastic. So I would
darn
say
it.
this is going to be a agility check. So agility plus your physique.
That's even better than vigilance. That's only 3. Okay. Oh! All 5s.
Oh, okay. So, for what it's worth, he also did not make the check. So, as you are getting a bit of a length away from him, you do still see that he is following you. He has a view on you, but you've gotten a little bit more distance between the two of you. As you're trying to get to the very outskirts of town, to where you know it's no longer like maintained roadway, if you will, of you're going to be going out into the bog.
Yeah, I'm sure Henry will know where he's going because he told me.
Yeah.
So I'll just continue to make my way towards the bog.
Absolutely. And while you're doing that, let's jump back over to this seance that is happening. Now, Biddy, as the essentially the one that's going to be performing this seance, would you describe to me what this looks like? What's this process for Biddy?
So, as I had kind of mentioned earlier, I've got the table and the chairs oriented very specifically, so that we're basically cross-sectioned with the cardinal directions. So, head to my left, south, head to my right, east, the big window. And I've got, likewise, in these 4 corners, the 4 other things that I brought with me. In the center is a kind of ceremonial gold bowl, kind of a Celtic knot type patterning around it, along the edges of the outside rim, much like the shawl I'm wearing, just a spread of wings on either side. And then in the corner in the south is the stone that I picked up. For the east, there is the bundle of black feathers. North has my little mini cooking pot, and then which is a cauldron-y looking thing. And then in the west is the knife. So then, of course, we've got in the chair ahead of me, John, myself, and then there's 2 other chairs, I guess, available. But I don't know if anyone's chosen to sit in them yet.
It doesn't seem like anyone's choosing to sit. They're all keeping a little bit of distance.
Fair enough. Well then, if John has taken his seat, I will sit across from him and begin.
Okay.
Now, in a place such as this, we exist in a world, Ireland, we're so lucky. We live at a place where the veil between worlds is terribly thin. And it doesn't take much to cross between them. But, for our purposes, we must move with intention. I have it seated between the corners of the world, and so to begin, we will call them. To the north, a cauldron, a well, a vessel. In the south, a stone for mortar and pestle. To the west, a wing, tip of the spear. And with the east, this blade, we sever the veil twixt there and here. And she'll hold her hand over the bowl of water in the center of the table, and very intentionally stare down at it, and say, with these I invoke a gateway, a portal, through which we may commune with those no longer mortal. And then I will use what we are subbing in as a wand, my bowl. I will cast a spell to commune with the dead.
Fantastic. So now, if you would, please, Biddy, make a magic check for me.
Indeed. And I'll bring my mic closer.
Yes.
So that's 8 total, yes?
Yes, it is.
All the dice. Oh lord. That's not bad. Got 2 successes.
2 successes. Okay, so this was going to be something that was requiring more successes due to the increased difficulty level of this particular seance. Now, has Biddy had a successful seance before?
I would say yes over the course of things. Probably not something she offers very often, but for those in town who are not afraid or who in their desperation want to make their way to her, it's probably a thing she's offered before.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I'd say somewhere in there, and a success or 2.
What does a success look like?
Well, I guess some of that's on you.
That's fair.
In the bowl of water, I would imagine that in some sense becomes what she would see or perceive as a doorway.
Okay.
So then for a successful seance, there would be a doorway opening through that bowl and that water, and then the ability to either see or hear or otherwise sense the invited presence or uninvited presence coming through it.
That's fair. Now, with that description in place, almost like this door is being opened, we can visit the idea of doors within the world of Mythic Ireland. The world that you are in is not the only one that exists. There are parallel worlds. People with the sight, such as the 3 of you, have the ability to see the pathways and the doors into other worlds. So this is not the first time you've seen this door open, Biddy. Aoife, this may have been the first time for you. However, the person sitting in front of you, John, is kind of peering forward. Not quite, it's very clear he doesn't exactly know what to expect with this situation. It's almost like a cold presence is felt immediately on you, Biddy. And it looks like as you're glancing over to him, the sleeves that are rolled up, you notice that his skin is reacting as though he's also cold. Goosebumps have occurred. And he kind of is just like glancing down at the bowl if you seem to be focused on it. And if you're looking in, you feel like you're seeing something, but it's not entirely corporeal. It's like a shimmer in the bowl. It seems to be like kind of levitating above it. It almost looks like it's a woman's face distorting in and out. Long hair, curls that seems to be like flowing in the wind. You hear a voice.
John, if you wouldn't mind, Speak the name of the person you would most like to communicate with, and we'll see if that invites them forward.
He kind of looks at you, takes a deep breath, and he leans in. Ellen Moore?
Ellen. And if there was one thing, John, you would say to her, one more thing, what would it be?
I love you?
Ellen, can you hear him? He says he loves you. Would you say anything back?
You hear a kind voice, older woman, who almost has like a slight laugh. Of course, I love him too. He never should have doubted that.
She says she loves you, and that you never should have doubted it.
You see tears begin to well up in his eyes. They were already present, but at this point, he's not able to hold them back, and they start streaming down his face. Biddy, could you make a vigilance check for me?
One success.
One success? Okay. I would say with your awareness of your surroundings and knowing that while you're opening a door, there are invited and uninvited presences that can potentially come through. We should be mindful of the amount of time this is opened.
Now, my dear, I cannot leave such doors as this open for very long. If there's any other thing you'd like to say, I do recommend saying goodbye and making your peace.
He kind of leans forward, trying not to, reminding you, or remembering you saying not to touch anything on the table of... Bye, Mom.
Good night, Ellen. And she'll put her hand over the bowl and then give it just a little spin, almost kind of metaphorically manifesting or physically representing the closing of a door. And now we must close as we began, with the corners. For the north, the cauldron, the well, the vessel. The south, the stone of mortar and pestle. The west, the wing, tip of the spear, and picking up the blade. And with the east, this blade, we sever the connection made here. It's finished.
So it actually worked?
Oh, aye. Your mother was here, my dear. And her love was very real and very strong. And even though she is no longer with us, that will never leave you.
Thank you, Biddy. I really appreciate you doing that for me.
You're most welcome, darling. And she'll reach out a hand if he wants to take it.
He hesitates for a moment, but he does extend his hand and take yours.
She'll do that nice old person thing of putting the other hand on top of it and giving it a good squeeze.
Fantastic. Now, while the seance is complete, Dolan, we still have you out there in the bog. You're continuing forward. It's dark. It's cold. It's a little bit reminiscent of a day from years past.
Duncan?
You hear your voice echoing around, as though it's coming back to you. As you're glancing around, you just your breath starts to hasten. You feel your pulses racing. Could you make another vigilance check for me? None? Okay.
None.
Dolan, as you're moving forward and dealing with the lack of vision, you suddenly hit something, a resistance against the foot as you're stepping forward. And as you look down, it's fuzzy at first because of the darkness, but then you step back and you notice that there's blood on your shoe. As you're looking forward, there's a body on the ground. I need you to make a fear check. Now, a fear check in this game is essentially meaning anything that is a difficult sight to see. You'll have to see exactly how your character reacts in the moment. You can either roll with empathy or with logic. However you feel your character would approach the situation.
Probably at this point, logic's way out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do empathy.
Okay.
No.
No successes?
No successes.
Okay. As you're glancing down at the body that's on the ground, moving forward, almost feeling like is this him? Is this who I've been looking for?
No.
Is this different than all those years ago? And as you get closer to it and you flip the body over, that's where we'll pick up in our next chapter. Fantastic. So, thank you all so much for joining us today for Chapter 2 of The Verge of the Azure Sea. That was a perfect cliffhanger. You handed that to me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Adam. But I do want to say we'll be back in 2 weeks from now, where we are not only going to have these 3 fantastic investigators, but we'll have the first 3 from Chapter 1. So the paths are converging, and I'm very intrigued to see how everyone interacts. But
what did I find?
And we'll find out in 2 weeks. I would like to go ahead and once more go around the table, have my wonderful players kind of shout out where you can find them, where you follow them, any projects that you're working on. Please plug yourselves. Let the beautiful people know where to find you. Let's go ahead and start. Well, let's go backwards this time, Adam.
Well, after being completely traumatized by all of that, Adam Turns Heel. Adam Joseph Ferry, Adam Turns Heel. You can find me as Adam Turns Heel on all social medias, including Twitch, where I'll stream a number of games. You can also find me on the upcoming Tuesday adventure, The Mask of the Mighty, which is on Cyber Nation Uncensored. That'll be this upcoming Tuesday, and we do that every second Tuesday of the month. And just for those that want to get a precise date of when this show will come up next, so 2 weeks, that's going to be the 11th. So just keep that in mind. You can also find me in Newport Beach, where I serve ice cream down at the pier there. And sometimes you'll find me out on the lanes where I'm trying to make a small comeback in the bowling world. So that's all there is for me.
Fantastic. We'll go over now to Sarah.
Amazing. So I'm Sarah Durnesk. You can find me at Durnesk around the internet, pretty much almost anywhere. Again, excepting fanfiction.net. Somebody got my URL. You can also find me if you happen to be Los Angeles or Burbank local. I do actually run a live D&D show at a local bar called the Roguelike Tavern, and our next show is going to be this Thursday at 8 o'clock. It's gonna be a blast. So if you happen to be around, it's an interactive PvP Dungeons and Dragons game, so you can support the hero of your choice as they attempt to utterly annihilate the other 3 in a dungeon of my making. And the 4 players are actually coming back from games that I've already played before, but this will be their first time playing together, and it should be an amazingly chaotic and wonderful time this week. We also do a live pub sing there. That production company is called Pick Your Poison Productions. And all of our stuff is also streamed online. So if you don't happen to be local, don't worry, you can still watch the shows that we do. Again, you can find me at Durnesk or Pick Your Poison Productions.
That's awesome. I didn't realize they were live streamed. I'll have to check that out. It sounds amazing.
They're later streamed because Wi-Fi in the bar is kind of... But we do have it recorded, and then it usually goes up either a week to 2 weeks later, depending on my ability to edit.
That makes sense. Fantastic. And last but not least, Fluffy.
Hi, I am Fluffy. You can find me on Twitter at Fluffy Snowfall. Right now this is the stream I'm on. But I do want to tease at something that's in the works right now. There is a podcast that I'm currently working on that will be released probably in the next couple of weeks. So look out for You Will Be Missed, a 5th edition D&D podcast where I run Curse of Strahd yet again because you know what? I'm predictable and I'm okay with that.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I want to do a shout out to someone who had retweeted or responded to our initial tweet of this announcement and said immediately, the MVP of the Mists. And I'm like, yeah, Fluffy is the MVP of the Mists. So it's so fitting.
I strike red kite.
Oh,
I'm calling you out. I know that was you.
Yes. Well, that's amazing. I'm very excited about that. So thank you all so much. You are fantastic players. I guess I'll just round this out. Hello, everyone. My name's Bree. You can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at BriannaFlame. Typically, I'm here on the initiative order. So I'm normally behind the scenes, making the stuff, helping people get the streams running. But every now and again, I get to step into the Game Master chair and get to, Game Master for this is my particular favorite system. So it's an honor. Thank you to my players. And lastly, I want to do just a couple shout outs to our sponsors for the channel who give us some fantastic discount codes, starting with Session Zero Clothing. If you like epic D&D inspired streetwear, Session Zero is for you. Their shirts are ridiculously soft. I'm not biased. I legitimately bought some. If you go ahead and use the code ORDER at checkout, you'll get 15% off your order. Next up, we also have Mithril Armory, which is a fantastic dice making company and other tabletop accessories. If you use the code, oh my goodness, I believe it's ORDER. I am the worst right now. Oh my gosh. Please check out our chat right now because Nathan is infinitely more prepared than me and is using our awesome Nightbot to give you the codes for exactly what to use at checkout for a discount. We love dice here, so we also have 2 other dice sponsors. It's Initiative for 10% off at Mithril Armory. Thank you, Nathan. I really appreciate you. Next up, we also have Norse Foundry. If you're not familiar, Norse Foundry has fantastic, beautiful gemstone and metal dice. If you go ahead and use ORDER at checkout, you do get 15% off your order. And then lastly but not least, our very own Umbral Occultist dice. The eldritch entity that she is, Taryn, aka Valrook on the socials, has given us a very generous discount code. If you use the code Initiative at checkout, you get 10% off a full set of dice. So definitely check them out. They're beautiful. If you're a game master, I warn you, they will be cursed because you will not be able to do anything against your players with them. But we love her for that. Aside from that, thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.